Welcome everyone to Weekend Escapades. Today we are headed back to Grafton, Utah, Ghost Town. And we're going to share a few stories with you that maybe you didn't know about and that we found out about. So come along with us and join the adventure across this beautiful old bridge into Grafton Ghost Town. Now be sure to like and subscribe and click that notification bell, and it'll let you know when we put up a new video, and it sure helps keep our channel strong. So Grafton was settled in 1861, and the Great Flood of 1862 washed the town away. The townspeople resettled on higher ground in 1862. This town was once a very thriving community. Life here in Grafton was tenuous, but strengthened by the residents who relied on each other to survive. Those types of communities instilled a sense of belonging. This beautiful ghost town of Grafton, with its rustic buildings that stands in front of the massive tan and red walls of Zion National Park, have been in countless movies, paintings, and photographs. Welcome to the Ruby Rose Cabin. The Ruby Rose Cabin was used in the film Ramrod, and it sits here restored to perfection in Grafton Ghost Town. This is on the corner by a wise old tree that I'm sure has many stories to tell about this corner lot in the Ruby Rose Cabin. The John and Ellen Smith Wood home. They and their children lived here in Grafton. John was a farmer, raised cattle, worked in a blacksmith shop, and made beautiful horsehair ropes and hackamores in his spare time. An historic split-rail fence surrounds the property, but Ellen died on May 7, 1898, and she is buried here in the Grafton Cemetery. John lived in Grafton until 1909, then moved to Hurricane, Utah, where he died August 4th, 1911, at the age of 92. Now, this is a beautifully crafted home, as you can see. A lot of stonework and a lot of woodwork in this house. They've redone some of the areas, but it is absolutely beautiful. Down into the basement we go. Now, these homes here in Grafton had basements or root cellars, whatever you'd call them. They were much cooler than the exterior and the interior of the houses, and I'm sure this is where they kept their perishables and all of their food here for the families. Now, this property contains two other buildings, a large log barn that was built in 1877, and a raised one-room log granary that was also raised in 1877. This is a glimpse of how large this valley is, and here's that beautiful home sitting right here next to all the outbuildings. And hey, we found a little friend living on the porch right there. So let's take a look at these outbuildings and that split-rail fence that surrounds this property. As I walked up to this large outbuilding or log cabin style barn, I opened up the front door and found this amazing wagon on the inside. It wasn't locked, but I removed the beam and pulled it out, opened those doors, and this is what I found. Kind of worth it to put it back the way you left it, but at the same time, I just had to get inside and take some amazing photos of an old wagon that's in this barn, probably just as old as the wood that it's covered by. Let's take a walk on over to the Grafton School and Church Building. It was built in 1886 by the dedicated people of this small town to meet their needs for a school and church building and also social events. This is the most photographed ghost town historic structure in the western United States. This is one of our favorite homes that we visited in ghost towns, and this is the Alonzo Russell home. It has been beautifully restored and has a handcrafted front porch where Alonzo's family often met to socialize, sing, and listen to music of his guitar. Alonzo Russell had his own family band called the Russell Band, in which he played drums, his sons played fiddles, accordions, and guitars. Alonzo was an expert blacksmith by trade and supplied the town with eating utensils and farm tools, in addition to repairing broken wagon parts, sharpening plows, and shoeing horses. Now, I'm sure there are many more stories about this home, but Alonzo lived in the adobe home until he died in 1910 at the age of 89. He is buried in the Grafton Cemetery. His son, Frank Stephen Russell, bought the home for $200 and a cow. Frank and Mary Ellen Ballard Russell moved into the house in 1917 and lived there until they moved to St. George in 1944. Now, the basement of this home was much cooler than the upstairs and the exterior, so I'm sure this is where they kept most of the food and perishables when they lived in this home, and it is preserved and taken care of very well. This is one of my all-time favorite ghost town homes, the Louise Marie Russell home, built right around 1879. Now, it was built by Alonzo Russell, who also built the home across the street. Now, this home was built somewhere between the dates of 1873 and 1879. It's a one-story gabled log home, and again, it was built for Louisa Marie. She returned here in 1879 when the home was complete, and she moved here with her 6 children, and they were all raised in this home. This is the animal pen, or the small barn that's out back. Looks like it had a couple of stalls for the animals. And you can see the view of the back side of this home. It was built as a log cabin. It looks like it has a little addition on the back. And an amazing fireplace, the way this was built out of adobe and the sandstone that's there. And look at the construction, the way these logs were all laid together. And the overlay to keep the water from running into the home. Very amazing construction for its time period. Now, Grafton had the first 4 years of its life and its founding in 1862 very difficult. Death came in its usual manner, taking the young, the sick, and the old. You can see in this tree there are wear marks where children used to swing, and this tree has been here for years. Again, I love the old trees because if they could tell stories, I'd sit all day long and listen. Now, the Grafton Cemetery tells a terrible tale of the worst years in Grafton. 1866. A 9-year-old boy getting dragged to death by a horse. 2 girls, Loretta Russell, 14, and her friend Elizabeth Woodbury, 13, dying when a beam broke over their swing. It was the worst year with 13 deaths. Robert M. Berry, his wife Isabella Berry, and his brother Joseph Berry, all killed by Indians, and in a matter of 2 months, multiple people died from diphtheria, including 5 children under the age of 10. 3 children of the York family, ages 10, 5, and 3, as well as Sarah Ann Brookfield and her 2 daughters, ages 5 and 7. This cemetery tells a tragic tale of the town of Grafton and how hard the townspeople worked to keep this area going and starting a fresh life and keeping their community strong. But in the end, this cemetery tells the truth. The hard-working folks of Grafton kept it together. They tried to farm and raise their cattle and raise their family, but harsh conditions made this area almost uninhabitable. The river still runs through it, bringing life to the valley. And it is one of our favorite locations to visit and pay our respects to the early pioneer families of Grafton. Thank you for joining us on our returning visit to Grafton, Utah. And until our next adventure, goodbye from Weekend Escapades, and we'll see you in the next one.